Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 8, Text number 9. Tasyam Chakruhum Spriham Sarve Sa Suram Asuram Manavaha Rupam Audaryam Vayaham Varnam Mahimam Akshiptam Chetasaham Tasyam Chakru Spriham Sarvem Tasura Sura Manavaha Rupaudarya Vayo Varnam Mahima Kshipta Chetasaham Tasyam Chakru Spriham Sarvem Tasura Manavaha Rupaudarya Vayo Varnam Mahimakshita Chetasaham Tasyam Chakru Spriham Sarve Sura Manavaha Rupaudarya Vayo Varnam Mahimakshipta Chetasaham. Please repeat. Anyone else? Or okay. Tasyam unto her. Chakruhum did. Spriham desire. Sarvem everyone. Sa Sura Asura Manavaha. Sorry, Manavaha. The demigods, the demons, and the human beings. Rupam Audaryam by the exquisite beauty and bodily features. Vayaham youth. Varnam complexion. Mahimam glories. Akshiptam agitated. Chetasaham their minds. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Because of her exquisite beauty, her bodily features, her youth, her complexion, and her glories, Everyone, including the demigods, the demons, and the human beings, desired her. They were attracted because she is the source of all opulences. Purport. Who in this world does not want to possess wealth, beauty, and the social respectability that come from these opulences? People generally desire material enjoyment, material opulence, and the association of aristocratic family members. Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya pahita chetasam. Material enjoyment entails money, beauty, and the reputation they bring, which can all be achieved by the mercy of the goddess of fortune. The goddess of fortune, however, never remains alone. As indicated in the previous verse by the word Bhagavat Para, she is a property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is enjoyable only by Him. If one wants the favor of the goddess of fortune, Mother Lakshmi, because she is by nature Bhagavat Para, one must keep her with Narayana. The devotees who always engage in the service of Narayana, Narayana Parayana, can easily achieve the favor of the goddess of fortune without a doubt. But materialists who try to get the favor of the goddess of fortune only to possess her for personal enjoyment are frustrated. Theirs is not a good policy. The celebrated demon Ravana, for example, wanted to deprive Ramachandra of Lakshmi Sita and thus be victorious. But the result was just the opposite. Sita, of course, was taken by force by Lord Ramachandra, and Ravana and his entire material empire were vanquished. The goddess of fortune is desirable for everyone, including human beings. But one should understand that the goddess of fortune is the exclusive property of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot achieve the mercy of the goddess of fortune unless one prays both to her and to the Supreme Personality of God, and the Supreme Enjoyer, the Personality of Godhead. Om Agnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utafpada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vatamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namasute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamanti Namine Harijana Ganabadi Jnana Karmandahari Prakatita Parabhaktir Bhakti Siddhanta Kantihi Vinaya Nikara Lakshmi Nimna Mede Ragamyo Bhuvijayati Vikaso Bhakti Purvo Yatindraha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamanti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Deshatarine Vagisha Yasya Vadane Lakshmi Yasya Shivakshasi Yasyase Hridaye Samvittam Samhamaham Bhaje Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yad Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Yasya Deve Parabhaktir Yata Deve Tatagaro Tasya Te Katitayata Prakashante Mahatmanaha. So, Tasyam Chakru Spriham Sarve Suras Ramanavaha Rupaudarya Vayovarna Mahima Kshipta Chetasaha. Because of her exquisite beauty, her bodily features, her youth, her complexion, and her glories, everyone, including the demigods, the demons, and the human beings, desired her. They were attracted because she is the source of all happiness. So Srila Prabhupada has this famous article that he wrote. It's called the Peace Formula. And Prabhupada is speaking on the verse, Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam taya pahita chetasam. Bhoktaram jagatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram sukhridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantam richati. That if a person wants to be happy in this world, if they want to be peaceful in this world, they have to understand that Krishna is the enjoyer, Bhoktaram, he's the supreme enjoyer. He's the master of all sacrifices. And he's not only is the master, he's also the proprietor of everything. He's the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor. And above all, he's everyone's friend. And this is a very important point for us to understand that Krishna, not only is he the supreme enjoyer and the supreme proprietor, but he's also the supreme friend. And if he was not one of these three things, it would not really work out for us. Why? Because if Krishna was just the supreme proprietor and the supreme enjoyer, and he was not your friend, then you would be in trouble. Because, why would you show favors to someone who's not your friend? If Krishna was your friend and proprietor, but he can't enjoy it, then he cannot facilitate the bliss of the living entities. Then if Krishna was the enjoyer and the friend, but not the possessor, then he'd be stealing from someone else, and everyone would be in trouble. So if one understands that Krishna is everyone's best friend and he's the supreme proprietor and the supreme enjoyer of everything, only then can one actually attain peace in their life. If we do not understand the simple point of Bhoktaram Jagatapasam, then we will suffer in this material world. Prabhupada says that people who would not want to possess wealth, who would not want to possess all these things. Why? Because in this world, that's the whole point. Everyone comes to this entire material world in order to develop their own God project. What a God. Everyone wants to be God. Everyone, all the way. Srila Prabhupada says that false ego is so amazing that all the way from someone is in a very exalted position, like Indra, or even higher, all the way down to an insignificant ant, everyone thinks they're the center of the universe. That is the most amazing thing about false ego, that we think that no matter where we go, no matter what we do, we are the center of the universe, and we are the ones who are running the whole show, and we're the most important person on this planet. And you can see that this tendency is there right from when the child is born. Right? If we were to objectively understand and see, children are especially immediately they cry and everyone has to give them their attention. And as they grow up, if they're not trained properly, these egotistical tendencies continue to be there. And then when they grow up also, they continue to be there, but instead of crying and making a big show, they make a different kind of way to let people know that they're not happy with their thing, with their situation. So everyone in this world, they want to have wealth, beauty, and the social respectability that come with it. People in general desire material enjoyment. Everyone is after material enjoyment. And because everyone is after material enjoyment, we are living in this material world, which is simply a dog-eat-dog situation. Everyone is envious of everyone else in this material world. And because everyone is envious of everyone else, there is really no love, peace, or happiness that we can see. And as long as money is the center of of everything which happens, we can see that at least before the four aims of life in Vedic culture were dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And dharma, Prabhupada gives so many definitions to it, but we can understand that the topmost dharma, savai pumsam paro dharmo, yato bhakti radhokshaje, ahaitukya pratihata yayatma suprasidati, that the highest dharma is to have unmotivated and uninterrupted loving devotional service unto Krishna. And then one has their paro dharma, and then one has their primary dharma, and one may have their secondary dharma depending upon their varna and ashram. Depending on how you're born, what you have to do, whatever person may have the dharma of being a Kshatriya, Brahmana, Vaishya, or Shudra, and in that there may be different types and all these things. So all these things are secondary, but the topmost is dharma. And artha means, artha in one sense also means meaning, artha in another sense also means wealth. So, artha always in Vedic culture was secondary. We can see that artha was always secondary. And what was this artha? What was the whole wealth that people were actually after? Prabhupada said, milk, grains, and sugar. These and land. If you have these things, you're considered to be very wealthy. And if you don't have these things, then, what's the use of all your wealth? Sometimes we can see that people are spending so much money on big weddings. People have huge weddings that they spend money on. In America, you see they spend big. They get like a lawn and some tables, some dancing, some ballroom dancing or whatever, and whatever else, and they wear certain kinds of clothes. But if you were to compare that to an average Indian wedding, or like an average, or like just a little above average Indian wedding, it's so much more opulent, so many more flowers, so many varieties of foodstuffs, so many flavors, so many people. I remember my brother's friend someone was asking my brother's friend who just got married, they asked him, so you went to India, how many people came to your wedding? And then he said there were like, I think 2,000 or 3,000 people, and they were like, what, really? Are you a prince? They're asking if he was a prince because they're like, what, 2,000? How? Because they cannot can see how is this possible? How can opulence be spent like this? How can money be spent? They don't understand. They don't understand. They have no conception actually. And when they go and actually see the wedding, they thought, wow, this was so amazing. And then they, if I get married, I also want to get married like that. So, and then that's why we see some Western couples, they want to come and perform their wedding inside a temple, wherever it is. So that's real opulence: flowers, fruits, milk, yogurt, land, grains, all these things. That's real wealth. And we see that in Vedic culture, all these things were regulated. The heads of the society were the Brahmanas, and then the Kshatriyas, they were the ones who would tax everyone and make sure everyone is in line. And the Vaishyas would have to give a certain percentage of whatever they made, whatever they produced. So 1 year, if there was a drought and you didn't produce anything, you don't have to pay taxes. That's a very simple thing. But we can see that now Artha has become the Artha, or opulence or wealth has become the meaning of life. Everything that you do in this world is everything. It's instead of being a culture based on dharma, it's become a culture based on money. Everything that you do, your entire existence, your entire value, your entire degree of social respectability and responsibility, it all depends on how much artha you have. If you have a lot of artha, then you're a very respectable gentleman. And if you don't have a lot of artha, if you don't have a lot of wealth, you are not considered to be respectable. We can see in India, there are some of the greatest sadhus that are so renounced. Was Vidyaraja Tirtha. Some devotees were telling me they went to meet him. He was a great Madhva sannyasi, and he saw 5 times. He was actually in charge of the Udupi Mutt, which means it happens every 18 years, isn't it? Right? Every 18 years it happens. So every 18 years is a particular group of Madhvas who are in charge of the main Udupi temple. So he saw the overseeing of the worship of the Udupi Madhva, the main deity of Lord Krishna, established by Madhvacharya, 18 times. So he spent worship of the Supreme Lord 90 years of his life. He got sannyas at a very young age. And he was very appreciative of Srila Prabhupada. He said that just like how Bhagirath got the Ganga from the heavenly planets into these lower planets in order to bless everyone, Srila Prabhupada got the nectar of pure devotional service and went all over the world and spread it everywhere. Amazing glorification. So when some devotees went to see him, they went and they saw inside the place where he was staying, it was a hut or whatever, bare ground, a small desk the size of this harmonium, a lot of books, and 2 pieces of cloth. Right? And he was just so renounced. But then if someone now in America were to say, yeah, I don't have a house, I'm just, I just have a few possessions, they'll think this person is just horrible. Like, why would you give any importance to such a person? Because renunciation is not appreciated in this world. Renunciation is not appreciated in this world. And because of that, we can say that more and more and more, the more the people have wealth, the more they can control society. And now we can say that before, when Brahmanas were in charge of the society, then the society was not so hedonistic. But now, if you were to examine and observe the world around you, the Vaishyas or the wealthy businessmen are in charge of the society. They're the ones who control the Brahmanas, the Asuric Brahmanas. Who are the Asuric Brahmanas? Prabhupada said, the scientists are the Brahmanas. They're the ones who control the Kshatriyas. And of course, they're the ones who control the Shudras. So, when people are controlled like this, and we can say that the downfall of the Brahmana class, some scholars argue, it started with Dronacharya. That he could have so what if Duryodhana and all of them were your disciples and you ate their salt. But as a guru, it's your duty to accept what your disciple gives you, and you can immediately reject it. You're not supposed to be obliged to what your disciples give you. But because he was obliged to what his disciples gave him, with Dronacharya, the entire Brahmana class started to fall down. That was the beginning of the fall of the Brahmana class, actually. So we see that now the scientists are completely bought out by the rich Vaishyas. And the rich Vaishyas, they invest their money in what they think will make them more money. That is very simple. And we can say this, that, Dhruta Karma Prabhu, his government name is Michael Cremo. He's a great Prabhupada disciple, and along with Sadaputa Prabhu, whose government name is Richard L. Thompson, they're both extremely qualified scientists. They produce so much evidence to show to the entire world that evolution is completely bogus. For example, they found a human skeleton 9 or 10 feet tall, which was dated 5,000 years old. They found some articles which had the most amazing cravings in the middle of South America or something. And when they carbon dated this, they found these to be millions of years old. So so when all this evidence comes up, obviously a person will start to wonder, wait a minute, how is it possible that there was something which so intricately designed, like we can see a bell or we can see whatever. All these things are so intricately designed. How is it possible for someone millions of years ago to have such an item? It is, from their calculation, is metallurgically impossible to have such an item. But so much evidence is there. But then when they presented the evidence, the people who were in charge of presenting the evidence to the world, they were bought out by the rich Vaishyas, by the rich academia, for them in order to say that no, all this is all wrong. This carbon dating is just 4,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. Why? Because they want to keep the narrative. When you buy out the Brahmanas, the truth cannot be spoken. That's the whole point. Here's the truth. Right? A Brahmana is supposed to be independently thoughtful. But if you buy a Brahmana out, then he is not independently thoughtful. He is dependent upon whoever is paying him is dependent upon what he has to say, what he has to speak. So the minute a Brahmana is bought out, then immediately the head of the society is cut off. And then we can see the Kshatriyas are also controlled. Every time there's an excess of weapons which are generated and there's no wars going on, the people who own the companies which make weapons, they induce the governments to have wars with each other. And then when two countries are fighting, they supply weapons to both the countries. So that way, it doesn't matter who wins, they get rich anyway. So now, okay, one may think, what's the point? But this is the point, that people are so much after material sense enjoyment that they don't even care about Dharma. And when we don't care about Dharma, this is what ends up happening. We live in a society where everything and all the things that we look around us are completely exploited. Now we live in this money culture. And there's everything around this money culture is actually very demoniac. It's very demoniac. And if you were to see, ultimately, and this happened in India, when was it? That just recently, all the 500 rupee notes were considered to be useless after a certain point of time. Right? When did that happen? 2-3 years ago? Right? 2-3 years ago. You work very hard and you get this 500 rupee bills, so many of them, so many notes. And then they said, you turn them in and we'll swap you out for a different kind of a bill, right? Well, is it 1,000 and 2,000 rupee notes now, right? And so now we'll swap you out with a new kind of a note. So why did they do that? To make sure for black money, this, that, and the other thing. We don't want to get into all that. But the reason, but they did this. And when they did this, after a certain point of time, those people who could not turn in their $500 bills, let's just say by the 4th of July, by the 5th of July, that 500 rupee bill with which you could buy, I don't know, how much rice could you buy with 500 rupees in India? How much rice, how many grains? No one remembers. I never did the shopping when I was that young, for sure. So anyway, I guess you could buy a lot of rice, a lot of milk. Okay. As a kid, I used to buy Lay's packets for 10 rupees, right? 10 rupees for a Lay's packet. So you could buy 50 Lay's packets with 500 rupees, right? But then one day after July 4th, on July 5th, let's just say, that same 500 rupee bill, which could buy you 50 Lay's packets, could not buy you anything. It's as good as any piece of paper on the street. So this is the valuelessness of the so-called money that people possess. Within one day, a government can decide that, you know what? All the money that you have is not going to be useful. And right away, everything that you work so hard for completely goes down the drain. So this, Prabhupada said, is a very artificial civilization. Prabhupada called it an artificial civilization, a pinprick civilization, animal civilization. Prabhupada had so many words for this civilization actually. Demoniac civilization. Prabhupada had so many words to describe this so-called civilization. Why? Because it is based completely on a desire to enjoy Lakshmi without Narayana, to enjoy Sita without Rama. So when a person has such a civilization, is basing everything upon it, very quickly everything just falls apart and crumbles. Everything just falls apart and crumbles. So we should see and understand that what have we invested our lives so much in? And please do not underestimate the power of money. Because we can just see, now if I were to tell you, so look, here is a basket, okay? Here's a basket. It's like a circle, okay? And here's a ball, and you go and put a ball in this basket. Does that have any meaning? Does that have any meaning? No, it does not. If I were to give you a piece of wood, and I gave you a small ball, and you threw it and you hit it somewhere else, would that have any meaning? Absolutely not. But cricket, baseball, basketball, football, soccer, all these things are considered to have so much value, right? It's so valuable. It is so, people spend their entire, they can't wait for the next World Cup. And people spend so many billions of dollars. It's a $1 trillion industry, all these things. But why? It is simply nothing but monumental meaninglessness. People, the Vaishyas have invested so much money in it that people are completely addicted to useless sense gratification, useless entertainment. That's why it's called Manoranjana, right? It's called Manoranjana. Something to fascinate your mind. Your mind is fascinated by all these kinds of nonsensical things as basketball or cricket or football or this, that, or the other thing. But ultimately, it is all a useless waste of time. I mean, how does it make sense that a bunch of grown men have to run around and keep a ball in the basket and try to steal the ball and throw it inside the basket? How does it make sense? What sense is there to it? If you were to logically think about it, what sense comes out of this? But no, when people enjoy Sita without Rama, they want to enjoy Sita without Rama, following the footsteps of Ravana, then they give meaning to these kinds of monumentally meaningless things. It's completely meaningless. These sports, but how much money goes into it? Why? And it's not just people buying tickets to go watch the thing. Then you have to buy a particular kind of a shoe, and the shoe probably costs them $10 to make. But then because it has this logo, my dear friend, a small logo of a guy jumping like a monkey with a ball, then that shoe becomes all of a sudden from $10 it becomes $200, $250. I don't know. There must be more expensive shoes, right? Probably $300, $500, $1,000. And then on top of that, if this person is very expert at keeping the ball in the basket, signs the shoe, then it becomes worth sometimes even millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. But what is the meaning to all this? There is no meaning. There is no meaning. But the Vaishyas invest so much money in these kinds of nonsensical activities in order to distract people from the ultimate goal of life, in order to distract people from having a dharmic perspective. When dharma is replaced by artha, then kama becomes a dharmic. Your desires to enjoy this material world become a dharmic. And how far does it go? How far does it go? In the 60s, it was free illicit sex. Then homosexualities. Now transgenderism. Then how bad is it going to get? Then animals. Then only one animal. Then more animals. Where does this thing end? There is no end to kama. There is no end to lust. What does Krishna say? Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidyenam iha vairinam. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Can you pull up Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, text number 38 onwards? And Krishna says a few series of things. Krishna says a few series of them. And then Prabhupada actually translates this in a very amazing way, actually. Prabhupada translates. So we can read this. Okay, no. I want to read the Sanskrit and then the English too, please. Dhume navriyate vahnir yata darsho malenacha yatol bena vrito garbas tata tenedam avritam. Translation. As fire is covered by smoke, As a mirror is covered by dust, or as an embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of lust. We should understand this, that we are covered by different degrees of lust. Next verse. Krishna says, Avritam jnanametena jnanano nitya vairina. There you go, nitya vairina, eternal. Kama rupena kontaya dushpurena anulena cha. Lust is our eternal. The wise, thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy. We have to understand this, my dear friends. Lust is our eternal enemy. Eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satiated or satisfied and which burns like fire. Next verse. Indriyani manobuddhir asyadishtanam uchyate eter vimohayat yesha jnanam avritya dehinam. Translation. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity. So we have to understand, where is our mind being invested in? What is the root of this lust? The root of this lust, the root of the desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, comes when you want to enjoy Krishna's energy without keeping Krishna in there. Why should Krishna have the Hladini Shakti? I want to have the Hladini Shakti. I want to be the enjoyer. Ishwaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. Krishna says that a demoniac person, I guess we can look at those verses too. A demoniac person thinks that I am the enjoyer. Ishwaroham aham bhogi. I'm the Lord of all that I pervade. Aham bhogi. I'm the enjoyer. Siddhoham. I am perfect. Balavan. I'm so strong, and I'm sukhi. I'm so happy. This is what the demons think. So, and this lust is sitting in all these different places. So, if things which are not related to pure Krishna consciousness as described in the purpose of His divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, are not showing, those are not in the forefront of our mind. If we are not trying to inoculate our senses, mind, and intelligence with this knowledge, with the instructions given to us by Srila Prabhupada, then know for certain that lust is sitting in our mind, senses, and intelligence. And our senses are being covered over by this kind of nonsense, actually. And we can see that, I just wanted to check the scores. I just wanted to see how this goes. And then we can see not just that. We not only is it the meaningless sports, but it's also the meaningless music, where the people of the worst character are paid the most amount of money in order to degrade the consciousness of those who come in touch with them. This is completely crazy. And this, my friends, is another type of mind control. The greatest type of mind control device that's ever been made? Before that, phone is like who's the phone's acharya? Who's the founder acharya of the phone? That is right, ma'am. Television. We can say, excuse me, I have to take them. The television, you see, the Muslims came to India, they tried to break the culture as much as possible, but still they held it together. The British came to India and they were trying their best, but then the minute the television came out, the culture of India started going to hell. Just like that. Right? And how did it start off? On television, India had, what was the first show that they played? Let's see. The first show on Indian television, who knows? That's right, B.R. Chopra's Ramayana, right? So yeah, it was a Ramayana, and when Ramayana would play, no one would be doing anything else. All the Hindus, the Muslims, whoever had a TV, they would all go into that person's house, they would watch it, and then when Sita, Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman come up, they would be doing Aarti to the TV. They was everyone fired up, and they said, okay, Ramayana is great, let's do Mahabharat. And then they did Mahabharat, and that Mahabharat is so bogus, it's so Mayavad nonsense. But anyway, then they did Mahabharat, and then right after that started secular movies, secular entertainment, non-religious entertainment. And the minute that happened, everything started going to hell. And you can look around you, so many people that you're seeing, their entire consciousness, and I observed this in New York. I remember I was distributing books, and then I read this verse. While I was on the train, I was distributing books, and I was going back to the ashram after distributing books. I only had probably 1 or 2 Bhagavad Gitas left in my bag, so I was like, feeling bad and happy at the same time. And then I was reading the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, or some chapter, and then I was reading, and then there was a mention of this verse: Purusha Prakriti Sohi, Bhumter Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karanam Guna Sangasya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. That people desire to be Purusha, or the enjoyer, or Prakriti. They tried to be Purusha and they tried to enjoy Prakriti. Bhumter Prakriti Jan Gunan, Karanam Guna Sangasya. And why do people get different material, guna sangosya? Why do people get different bodies? Why do people get different bodies? The reason people get different bodies is because they're associating with the different modes of material nature. Right? Karanam, reason. What was the reason? Guna sangosya. Just like how we have sadhu sangha, there's also guna sangha. What modes of nature are you associating with? Very important. Are we associating with Shuddha Sattva? Or are we associating with the other modes of material nature, which by nature are contaminating? We must ask ourselves that, actually. We must ask ourselves, what modes of nature am I associating with right now? That's why the Bhagavatam says, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. One must always be associated with Vasudeva Shabditam, knowledge or vibration in the mode of transcendental goodness. So anyway, I was reading this and I saw this person and I saw his whole attitude, the way he was carrying himself, the way he made his hair, the way he had his headphones. It was all perfectly socially engineered in a studio somewhere in Hollywood. And he saw that and he was inspired by it, and that inspired more material desires in him, and there he was, a product of everything that was inoculated in his senses, mind and intelligence. And if you notice and see, the way most people carry themselves, it's all designed inside a studio somewhere in Hollywood or somewhere. You can observe. I'm giving a very philosophical outlook on this because Prabhupada is speaking about these points in the purport. But we should understand Siddhanta Balya Chitte Nakaraho Alas Yahaite Krishna Lagi Sudhita Manush. Do not be lazy in understanding the Siddhanta, my friends. Do not be lazy in understanding Siddhanta. Why? Because and it is okay to discuss controversial points. Why? Because when you discuss these points, your attachment to Krishna will increase. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur made an even heavier statement. Are you ready for this one? Yes? No? Maybe? No? Okay, you can walk out if you're not. But he says, Siddhanta alasajan anarthoto chadina. That those who are lazy in understanding the Siddhanta cannot give up their anarthas. You cannot give up your anarthas, actually. If you're too lazy to read Srila Prabhupada's books, Prabhu, it's like so much philosophy. I want to hear a story. What's the story? Where's the story? They go buy a children's Krishna book then, How old are you? 2 years old? But, it's like, I don't want to read the purports. Prabhu, I don't have a habit of reading. You don't have a habit of reading, yet you're an IT engineer in America. I guess you read 700 books to be an IT engineer in America. And that time you had a habit of reading. But now when it comes to the ultimate goal of life, then we don't have a habit of reading. This is called insincere nonsense, actually. And when someone says stuff like that, I remember I told a person, hey, look, if you want to be like this, Prabhu, there is no cure for your insincerity. I'm sorry. What is this nonsense? Are you illiterate? What are you? You can't read Prabhupada's books? It's nonsense, actually. It's nonsense. So, Siddhanta alasajan anarthuto chadina. If you are lazy in understanding Siddhanta, you will not be able to give up your anarthas. It's as simple as it gets. That's why, what did Prabhupada say? They think that these books are simply for their distribution, but they do not know that I'm writing these books for them. Prabhupada said, every day we must be reading for an hour or two. Every day of our life. Oh, but I have this, I have that, I have this and have that. What's the use? If we are not giving attention to Prabhupada's purpose, what's the use? What's the use? Sorry, that was a small advertisement for reading Prabhupada's books. So, getting back into this, we have to understand that Krishna is saying these points. And now if you look at the verse after this, there's two more verses. Now this is, okay. Tasmatvam indriyan yado niyamya bharatar shaba papmanam prajahihenam jnana vijnana nashana. Translation. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by what? By regulating the senses. Slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. It is very important. How will you slay lust? How will by the regulation? Therefore, yes, Prabhupada said we have to follow these 4 regulative principles strictly. And he said, if you simply take the vow to only eat Krishna prasadam, what does it mean, only eat Krishna prasadam? Means to not go and eat foodstuffs from outside. Vishaira anna kaile malin hape man. Malin anna kali nahi Krishna rasmaran. If you eat grains cooked by non-devotees, then your mind becomes like stew. You cannot remember Krishna. So if you were to have cornflakes and bread and chapatis from Patel Brothers and whatever else may be there in your home right now, do yourself and your entire family a favor and please, my friends, throw it outside your house right now and never buy it again. If you don't know how to bake bread, learn how to bake bread. I mean, I learned how to, I'm a really as basic as it gets cooked. Maximum, maybe khichdi. I could do a little pasta every now and then. But at one time I had to bake bread and I saw a video on YouTube and I baked edible bread. It was actually edible and offerable to Krishna. So if a absolutely inexperienced fool like me could learn how to, anyone could do it. So please, we should control our senses. Vacho vegam, manasa, krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udaro pasta vegam, etan vegan, yo vishaheta dhira, sarvam api mam prithivim shishishyat. We must control our tongue, belly, and genitals. Right? We see all these 3 are in one straight line. If you control your tongue, then you'll be able to control everything else. If you're unable to control your tongue, then you won't be able to do it. That's why Shastra says, Sevon mukhe hi jivado swayam eva spuratyada. Spiritual life starts with the tongue. One must learn this. Atah Shri Krishna nama adi na bhavet grahyam indriyahi. Sevon mukhe hi jivado swayam eva spuratyada. Spiritual life starts with the tongue. So please, be careful about what you're putting in your tongue. Be careful of what you're using your tongue for. What are you speaking about? You meet your family and friends. What are you talking about? You meet other devotees. What are you talking about? We must not be so involved in Gramya Katha. Then Grihasthas become Grihamedis. The minute they start to talk Gramya Katha, Grihastha becomes Grihamedis. It is all nonsense. What's the point? What's the use? There is no, but what will they think? Who cares what they think? My God. You won't have to go back home, back to Godhead. Get good association. That's the point. What is the symptom of a Vaishnava? Asat Sanga Tyag e Vaishnavachar. Stri Sangi Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakta Ar. A symptom of a Vaishnava is one who gives a bad association. Bad association means those who are too addicted to association with the opposite sex. So we should see and understand that we must be regulated in our activities. Regulated. Regulation means waking up for Mangal Arati. Regulation means coming to Mangal Arati. Regulation means chanting your rounds. Regulation means eating prasadam at the same time, using the restroom at the same time, taking a bath at the same time, chanting your rounds at the same time, reading at the same time. Is what regulation means. Going and doing everything. And then when you do this, and when you do this, then you're not so affected by the other modes of nature. And then Krishna says another important point in the verse after this. He says, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhyah parapmanaha manasastu parabhuddher yo buddhe paratastu saha. Where, translation, the working senses are superior to dull matter. The mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Important point to note. It's very important to understand that the senses are superior to matter. Yes, the things made of matter cannot control you, right? But we see that is a cigarette alive or dead? How does it control the lives of so many people? How does it control it? That's right. Cigarette is dead. How does it control the life of so many people? Because of uncontrolled senses, due to unregulation, due to having a lot of lust. Right? It's a dead thing. Right? Because they're too lusty, then they can't control their mind. And because their mind isn't controlled, the mind takes over the intelligence. And when the intelligence is there, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So Prabhupada translates Saha. If you look at the Sanskrit over here in this verse, Prabhupada translates all the way down, please. Yeah, Saha. He says he. Right? And Prabhupada says he translates this Saha as a spirit soul. And Baldev Vidyabhushan also translates it as spirit soul. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, adding more to the rasa also, he says the Saha can also mean lust. Lust is higher than your intelligence. Lust is higher than your intelligence. Therefore, one must do everything possible to curb their lust. One must do everything possible to curb their mind. Now, I want to read a purport of Sri Prabhupada, which completely changed my life. 5:11:19. If you haven't paid attention this whole class, that is completely okay. But please make sure both your eyes and both your ears are wide open, because what you're about to read is going to blow your mind. Okay? Bhratravyam enam tat 19. Yeah. 19 was the last chapter of the 5th canto, chapter 11. Bhratravyam enam tat adhabra viryam upekshaya yeditam up. Okay, 17, yeah. Sorry, yeah. Upekshayam yeditam apramatah guror hare charano pasanasro jahivyalikam swayamatma mosham. Now please pay attention, my dear friends, because this is going to be amazing. It's going to be revolutionizing to your life if you do pay attention and take it into your heart. Translation, please. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and the supreme personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Now, if you look at the Sanskrit over here, if you can pull over, this is Maharaj Rahugana being spoken to by Jada Bharat, where he says, Guror Harer Charano Pasanastro. Use the weapon of worship to Guru and Hari. Guror Harer Charano Pasanastro. Right now, the purport is absolutely a classic Bhakti Vedanta in your face purport. Okay? There is one easy weapon with which the mind can be conquered. What is that? Neglect. The mind is always telling us, do this or do that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. Gradually, the mind should become trained to obey the orders of the soul. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that to control the mind, one should beat it with shoes many times just after awakening and again before going to sleep. In this way, one can control the mind. This is the instruction of all the Shastras. If one does not do so, now read this. Get a load of this one. One is doomed to follow the dictations of the mind. Another bona fide process is to abide strictly. Now this is doable, right? I don't know what, but Prabhupada is giving you two options. Either you neglect it and you do all this, or Prabhupada is giving you another option. Another bona fide process is to strictly abide by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in the Lord's service. Then the mind is automatically controlled. Do you want your mind to be automatically controlled? What was that? Yes or no? All right, good. So now if you want it to be automatically controlled, then you have to listen to the instruction of the spiritual master. Then the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Sri Rupa Goswami, Brahmanda Brahmate Kona Bhagavanji Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. When one receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of the Guru and Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. If one abides by the order of the spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna, he can be freed from service to the mind. Isn't that absolutely amazing or what? It's so amazing. It is so ecstatic. My God. You just have to follow the orders of the spiritual master. That's it. You just do what Prabhupada tells you, and then you will get the grace of Krishna, and you will not be entangled in further serving the senses. Now let's see. For brahmacharis, what is the primary dharma for brahmachari? The brahmachari only has one dharma. What is that dharma? This is Yamuna Prabhu. Put you on that. That's a good one. But, the dharma of the brahmachari. Huh? That's right. Acharyopasana. That is the only duty of a brahmachari, actually. That's all you have to do. Acharyopasana. Does that sound good, Mr. Jaishnav? Yeah? Okay. We'll sign you up. Komara acharit pragno dharman bhagavataniha. So anyway, brahmachari only has one thing, Acharyopasana. He simply has to worship the Acharya. That's all. Worship the Acharya and follow everything. But for the Grihastha, they have to do Of course, they have to do Acharya Upasana. And there's so many other things. And what now this, okay, I'm going to say a very unpopular statement of Srila Prabhupada, if that is okay with everyone. Is that okay if I repeat Srila Prabhupada's unpopular statement? Yeah? Prabhupada said, don't hate me. I didn't say it. Prabhupada said it. Prabhupada said that Grihasthas must donate 50% of their income to the spreading of the Krishna consciousness movement. Oh, I hate these brahmacharis. They're always asking us to give us our money. No, this is what Prabhupada said. Why? Because the mind goes where the money goes. That is an important point. If most of your Lakshmi is thinking, I'm saving up for my kids' college. I'm saving up for my kids' college. Prabhupada called universities, another unpopular statement of Srila Prabhupada. Slaughterhouses. Prabhupada calls universities slaughterhouses. Why? Because they slaughter your ability to actually discriminate between reality and illusion, my friends. Priti viheyaha kichu dharma nama chale bhagavata prahitahan paripurna chale. Whatever goes on in the name of dharma and all that in this material world is nothing but wholesale cheating. So, no, I'm saving up to send my kid to college. He can become a very qualified Shudra and then go and beg a job from someone else like a dog. Oh, this is what I'm spending my money in. You keep, I'm saving up for this. I'm saving up. How will they live? What will happen, Prabhuji? What will happen? Well, that is why 50%, because of this Guru Ravagya of us not establishing Daiva Varnashram farm communities, we are having to compromise with the demoniac society. And we're having to compromise. And then we have to do something about it. We must invest our wealth in the distribution of books and the establishment of self-sustained Daiva Varnashram farm communities. If you're not doing this, then we'll be doomed to follow the dictations of the mundane society. Sorry, these statements may be very unpopular, but you see, I'm wearing a color like that of the rays of the sun, and I have a thread around my neck. If I don't speak the truth, I have to hang myself with that thread. So I would choose not to, rather die for the truth. So we are speaking these things. So if we were to invest our hard-earned wealth in these instructions of Srila Prabhupada, then we will be able to actually be freed from the service to the mind. You see, this is the whole point, that this whole civilization is meant for the demons to be demons. Right? Everything is, whoever is building the skyscrapers and this, that, and the other thing, they're not building it for Krishna consciousness. They're building it so they can continue their sense gratification. So as long as we try to continue our sense gratification, without keeping in mind the consequences of such indulgence of the senses, then everything goes to heck. And please, especially coming from an Indian background, I can tell you this. Just like a fish doesn't realize that he's in water, people from an Indian background, we don't realize that the entire society we're around is filled with prestige. It's all about prestige. It's all about, how will he think of me? How will she think of me? If I were to not get a Tesla and I just rode in like a Prius, what will people think of me? What will this happen? It's everywhere. Prestige. To heck with this prestige. What's the point? Surrender to Krishna. Go back home, back to Godhead. What's the point? Should a grihastha not have nice things? Yeah, have nice things. But understand that this prestige, these are all secondary. Invest most of your time in Krishna consciousness. Invest most of your time in spreading Krishna consciousness. My heart breaks on so many days. Saturdays and Sundays are the best days for book distribution. And so few people do it. Saturday, you can rock out on books, man. You can really rock out. You can really go hard on books during the weekends. But rather we do this. And yes, please, worship the deities. Please, by all means, worship the deities. Have a few people left behind, and the rest of us should go out and preach, and then bring them back and preach more and do this. We can do so much. Should not be comfortable. Your real spiritual life starts your spiritual life actually starts right outside your comfort zone. And being right outside your book distribution keeps you right there. You never know what's going to happen. You never know how people are going to react, what's going to happen. They don't care who you are, where you're from, what's going to happen. And I was really happy. Our mother, Tulasi Saki Mataji, right? Not to. Okay, I was going to say Tulsi Priya, but okay. Tulsi, yesterday, her husband came out on books with us, and then he picked her up from work, and they both came back on books with us. And we were distributing books, and it was ecstatic. And then Mataji sold her first Saptarishi set. I have a picture of it. I can show it to y'all. But Mataji sold her first Saptarishi set for the pleasure of Shri Shri Kala Chanchi, Radha Kala Chanchi. So, it's very ecstatic, and so we should engage ourselves more in the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya. Engage the fruits of your activities in the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya. Then you will be freed from the Ravana effect. Otherwise, now I'm going to show you, can I show you a really brutal verse in the Bhagavatam? This verse is really brutal. Okay, and when I read this verse, I was thinking, oh my Lord Chaitanya, I better do everything possible to control my mind. Okay, so please pull up 11:23:47. Okay, now this is a really brutal verse, okay? So now check this out. Okay, no. Mano vashe nye hya abhavan smadeva manashananya savasham sameti. Now listen to this. Bhishmo hi devo sahasa sahiyan yunjad vashetam sahi deva devaha. Translation. Now it's going to go boom right there. All the senses have been under the control of the mind since time immemorial. And the mind himself never comes with the sway of anyone else. Now check this out. He is stronger than the strongest, and his godlike power is fearsome. You ever experience the godlike power of the mind? It is insane. Therefore, anyone who can bring the mind under control becomes a master of all the senses. This is the point. And what do we do? In order for us to control our mind, it's hard. But remember, if you perform your dharma according to the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, your mind will naturally come under control. Your mind will naturally come under control. We can say, and yes, the mind is very hard and difficult. But if you were to just simply follow the orders of the spiritual master, then, and you can hone your mind, just like a bull can be honed in a particular way. You can hone your mind, and that same godlike power of the mind can be used in the service of Krishna. And we can say, yesterday I was so disturbed, I was reading books, I sold a Bhagavatam set, and the lady bought the Bhagavatam, and 1 hour later, the husband came and gave the Bhagavatam back and asked for his money back. I was shattered, dude. I was thinking, oh my God. It is so, that was disheartening to the max. But I thought, this the casualties of war, and you have to keep going on, And we were just, that same Walmart, that same shopping complex that you saw us in. And I was like, oh my God. I was shattered. But then I thought, this is when Maya pushes you, you push back harder. I was in the 110-degree real feel hot sun. I drank this whole, where's my bottle? There's a big bottle of water back there. I drank the whole thing. I was like really going through it. Then I thought, now it's time to push harder. And then I distributed books all those days. I thought I sold one Bhagavatam, and even that Bhagavatam came back. And I was like, dude, I'm not going to give up the fight now. For me, when something like that happens, I get really... And then there's an ashtakam called Yatindra Ashtakam, glorifying my spiritual master. And I was chanting it, and I was thinking about the lotus feet of my spiritual master. And then all of a sudden, from 0 Bhagavatams, I went to 12 Srimad Bhagavatams. And was from like 28 books, I was able to sell 562 books yesterday. And it worked for me. It really worked. I was like, the godlike power of the mind. The mind is getting the best of me. But I thought these two verses, there's this one, the godlike power is fearsome. But then I thought of the verse before this, Guror Harer Charano Pasanastro. I thought that, I'm like, dude, you know what? Let's do it. And it worked out. Fortune favors the brave. So we have to be patient in the endeavoring. And that too, I'm a fool, what the heck? I'm a fool. But it worked out. Utsaha nishaya dhairya tat karma pravartanat. So we must be enthusiastic, we must be determined, and we must be patient. And when we do all these things, then we'll get the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So please, 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 do not take the Ravana mentality. No matter what your friends may tell you, no matter what, even other so-called devotees may tell you, oh, don't listen to what these people are saying. They're always like this. It's what they always do. Yes, this is what we always do. We'll always repeat the words of Srila Prabhupada. No problem. Hit us with shoes. Hit us with whatever you want. We'll repeat the words of Prabhupada. And if these words are making you uncomfortable, good. That's good. That means your conceptions are being challenged. That means you're being pushed out of your comfort zone. So please understand, your spiritual life starts right outside your comfort zone. So please go outside your comfort zone and do the needful to going back home, back to Godhead. Please. So I'll end the class over here. If there's any questions or comments, we could take them now. Protests also. Those are always fun. Yes, mother. What's your name? We see you during Mangalarti every day. Tammy, Hare Krishna. Thanks for coming. Can you please give Mother Tammy a mic? Mr. Jaishnav, can you do it? You're the young man. You're going to run around. Be active, man. Come on. Can you please turn it on for her? Make sure it's working.
This is a reflection from someone who's listening online. His name is Arjuna, and he asked me to read it to you.
Oh, yeah. He's my friend. I know him.
Yes. I truly appreciated your insights today. They stirred a deep reflection within me. Time and time again, we hear from Shastra and Srila Prabhupada's purports about the profound value of simplicity and detachment. Yet it's striking how in today's climate, even within our own movement, the brahmachari and sannyasi ashramas are often seen as relics of the past. So many questions the relevance of such a life. Why give up a career? Why not pursue higher education or secure your future? The thought of depending solely on Krishna seems to some impractical or even irresponsible. But your example challenges that narrative. Through your dedication to book distribution and your faith in Srila Prabhupada's mission, you've created such a beautiful community in Atlanta and shown that it is indeed possible to live a life fully surrendered, sustained not by mundane securities, but by divine mercy.
Yeah, wow, thank you. That was a heartfelt appreciation. Thank you, Arjuna Prabhu. It's not just that's why in Atlanta actually we are getting a farm where grihasthas are going to be living full time, just living off the land, the cows, and Krishna. Depending on the land, the cows, and Krishna. This is what Prabhupada wanted. It's not. We don't have to make a big commercial propaganda or whatever. It's a simple project. Prabhupada wanted it, so we're doing this. Did I see your hand go up? Yes, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the wonderful class. I was thinking sometimes it can feel a little overwhelming, the task we have before us to, this world is going to hell fast, and like you were saying, the scientists have been bought out, the politicians have been bought out, everyone's been bought out, and we're really swimming upstream. And then even our small challenges like getting regulated, going out and distributing books, they also seem like very big mountains to climb. So how do we not get overwhelmed by the task at hand?
Take baby steps. Just take steps towards it. And you just do one thing at a time. When you're chanting, you chant. When you're reading, you read. When you're praying, you pray. Just don't mix things. Sometimes people, when they're chanting, they're texting. And when they're texting, they're chanting. And when they're reading, they're calling someone else. When they're calling someone else, they're reading. You see, like you mix things up, right? But if you were to just do this, and I'm telling you, like this, my God, Mangalarti is so amazing. And, it's really awesome to see Radha Kalachandji all decked up. Darshanati, but I love the Mangalarti darshans. You can see Krishna's like beauty. This morning was like, so beautiful. You could see the beautiful threefold bending form of Krishna. And just, that's worth it, right? When you come and you just see, when you are so fortunate to have darshan of the Supreme Lord like that, and his concert like that, it's very ecstatic. Oh, Mangalarti, that was great. That's fired up. And, can I tell you frankly, what makes all the difference in the world for me is if I dance in Kirtan. It's as simple as it gets. If you simply dance enthusiastically in Kirtan, half the problems of your mind are solved. I've had practical experience of this, actually. My Guru Maharaj told me that, actually. He said, look, I have so many disciples, there's so many problems, so many things always going on. If you're a guru, it's like the biggest responsibility of all times. But then when it comes to Kirtan, complete madman, completely absorbed, chanting. I've seen my Guru Maharaj so many, Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, seen him so many times, And I took that as an example, and it really makes all the difference in the world. If you simply were to dance in Kirtan and sing and chant ecstatically, in front of the deities, more than half your problems are gone. When you go on, even I think before going on books, I'm like, oh, this problem, that problem, that problem, this problem. Oh, check engine light came on. Oh my God. Complain about so many things. But you go out there and you do it, that's it. It's like the mind shuts off. So we follow the order of the Spirit. Prabhupada said we must be very enthusiastic in the Mangal Arati. Enthusiastically participate in the morning program. If we enthusiastically participate in the morning program, then it's easy to control your mind. Chant a japa attentively. It really works. And especially this purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada says you must chant your rounds in front of Tulsi Maharani and you get someone. You know which purport I'm talking about? It's in the Haridas Thakur section where he instructs the prostitute to chant 300,000 names. I can send you the purport, remind me. And it just makes all the difference. Everything Srila Prabhupada gave us makes complete sense. You just do one thing at a time. Just dancing and kirtan changes my life. Is that okay? The practical. Anything else? Yes. My hero, Mr. Bhagavan Prabhu. Ki jai.
You mentioned that people have very elaborate weddings from one degree to another.
Mm-hmm.
But the divorce rate...
I'm sorry, bro, what was the last word?
There's a divorce rate.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was 60% last time I heard. I don't know where it is today. But it seems like something that's always been increasing as time in Kali Yuga goes on. So I've seen in India a lot of really elaborate weddings. But it's now in India they have a lot of divorces.
Yeah, it's
a
getting
lot more
everywhere.
than they ever used to. So what happens? Where do you go from a beautiful wedding ceremony to divorce court?
I mean, I don't have experience of this in this life, thank God. Philosophically, and please, Shishirada Kalachandji, I don't want to go through this. But we can say that, philosophically speaking, we can understand that these things happen when, again, artha or kama replace dharma. I know so many couples in India, they don't get along. They really, honestly don't get along. And, I've seen them, the highest bliss that they get is meeting with other husbands of other people, of their friends who are also husbands, and they all come together and just speak about how bad their family life is, and that's their biggest bliss. Man, there's never there's no question of giving up the wife. There's no question of giving up the husband. There's no question about it. But if dharma is replaced by artha and kama, then it all goes to heck. It all goes straight down to hell, actually. It goes way down. And because of that, then that's where it goes from it. It's, oh, I love her, and this whole nonsense. Oh, she's hot. Well, how long will anyone be hot? How long is anyone going to be beautiful? How long? Idam shariram parinama peshalam patat avasham shata sandhi jarjaram. That this body that you have, even if it's beautiful now, it is going to become old, wrinkly, and ugly. And we see this on book distribution all the time. Here's the beautiful daughter. Then here's the mother who is not that beautiful, but the daughter looks like the mom. And there's the grandmother who is not beautiful at all from a material perspective. So if you want to invest, please look at this objectively. We are not trying to be sexist or racist or this or the other thing. Just please look at this objectively. That it is an objective fact that beauty goes down the drain as time goes on. So, if beauty goes down the drain as time goes on, and if your whole life is simply meant on enjoying the beauty or enjoying the body of someone else, then that the minute that body doesn't give you that enjoyment, you want to go get a new one. Why? Because kama is replacing dharma. So again, we have to keep dharma in the center. Therefore, Prabhupada hammered upon Daiva Varnashram Dharma. Prabhupada hammered upon this point. So it's very important for us to understand. That's how it goes. The wedding is a wedding, but it's supposed to be dharmic. All these rituals, it's so boring to sit in and all this, I know. But why is it all done? For people to understand the gravity of the situation. From now, you're taking responsibility of this girl, And you have to make sure you perform everything in a dharmic fashion. What's the whole purpose? Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamo asmi bharatarshaba. I am sex life, not contrary to religious principles, Krishna says. So if a person's child becomes a devotee, that act of sex life is actually devotional service. But instead of doing all this, if people are indulging in sex life not for the sake of procreation, but for the sake of recreation, then everything goes to hell. Everything goes to hell. Is that okay, Prabhu? Okay. Anything else?
You said that, there is always there in India prestige, the say, what others going to think, what's they're going to say, how should I act? But it looks like this comes from like Krishna was reminding always Arjuna that, hey Partha, like Prabhupada purport, give a statement, because reminding that your forefather was like that, so you should not act like that. And like you say, who cares? But Mahaprabhu time, when we see Mahaprabhu was, if I do like this, what will people think? And what forget about people? What the Sarv Damodar will criticize me. So that was always there.
Yeah, there's definitely, we have to understand that Mahaprabhu is actually famous even in India. Even if people don't recognize him as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, they recognize him as a social reformer. Right? Mahaprabhu is recognized as a social reformer. Why? Because he didn't care about what the Smarta Brahmanas thought. That's why he made Haridas Thakur the Namacharya, to show these rascals that, hey, wait a minute, I don't care about what you think, you Smarti. This is Haridas Thakur. He's Namacharya. So we look at it from that perspective. So, for example, I'll give you a simple example. Sometimes, why did this person return the Bhagavatam? Because they didn't have a proper place to put it. Because they didn't have a proper place to put it, they come and they give back the Bhagavatam and ask for their money back. So they sacrifice a higher principle for a lower principle. And because they're sacrificing a higher principle for a lower principle,